So I have the privilege of having this conference, this slot right after the tea break. I'll try to make this as interesting as possible. I must say that I am not an expert in AI. I'm not an expert in smart cities. Let me tell you more about what we do. So Momentum Works, we're actually a venture builder. So I'm actually in the space of building ventures. So we have a team that builds companies in Indonesia from scratch. So we are a practitioner in this space. Another part of our team is that we actually get involved in insights. Our founder is actually from China, so we do, and since we have a big team in Indonesia, we do tend to bring together people from all over the world. So one of the latest event we did was in October, where we brought Indonesian smart city governments from Indonesia to meet smart cities government in China, in particular Hangzhou. So I wanted to use this opportunity to share with you some of the insights that we've seen, some of the leadership or thoughts from the governments themselves, as well as from some of the actual challenges that venture builders or companies have in building smart cities outside their own country. So I'm just going to skip some slides, but as this is just a slide to show that smart cities initiatives are everywhere. I'm not even going into too much detail, but I wanted to focus more on this, the players in the smart city ecosystem. So I'm sure a lot of the players have already mentioned what are the companies. I wanted to share a few more that were more interesting. So we know about Amazon, Microsoft, Huawei, everybody knows about it. McVie. McVie is actually, for those that don't know, it's actually a very big facial recognition company in China. Alipay's facial recognition technology is from them, and they're actually trying to go big. Grab, Alibaba. Then there are three companies, Rastec, Clue, Notflux, and Vitvit. These are actually Indonesian companies, startup companies, but going big. So I'll share a bit more information there. Then, of course, the middle part is the use cases. Okay, what are smart cities used for? Okay, so of course we all know this. I won't go into detail. But what I want to focus more on would be the challenges. So I think a few of the speakers mentioned about America, that a lot of companies are trying to become like US smart cities. But I think Asia is very different, and Singapore is not Asia. So let's unfortunately. Sorry, yes. Singapore is very, very advanced. Okay. It's South Asia. So I like the laughter in the room. Okay. So I think for those who are working in emerging countries, in frontier countries, I believe that you guys know this better than me. The challenges that we'll see would be you have a great idea, you have a great master plan, but sometimes the challenges would be the different policies at the local government sector. Bad implementation, education is lacking, infrastructure is not well planned, there's a typo there, and finally, somebody was saying that data is really, really important, but unfortunately in the emerging countries, data is not reliable yet, right? So I think one use case is that we had the national police person in charge of road safety in Indonesia, who actually joined us in China this time around. And we brought along the founder of Rastec, which is a system integrator. They are actually helping the national police in Indonesia implement smart city solutions for traffic management in Indonesia. And he was telling me that in Indonesia, there's no way you can have self-driving cars. Why? Because you can have the technology, you can have as much as you can. What would be the challenge? You would be surprised. No, it's not the humans. It's actually the roads. The lines on the roads are not clear. You can't actually have a self-driving car if you don't have the lines. You cannot have a self-driving car if the signs are not clear. And this is the kind of challenges that emerging markets face. The police in Indonesia is also trying to implement a national database of car registration, linking it to car owners. They're having a big challenge. Why? Because implementation. Because there are fake car registration all over the country, and there's no way the police is able to eliminate that now. So the data in the system is still not reliable. But the police force is actually still going strong in order to try to implement this. So this one, I must give them credit. We have to start from somewhere. So even though the data is not reliable, they're going there, and they know that they need to take baby steps, right? And they know they need to work with different partners, internal, within the country, and external, outside the country. That is why they joined us for this trip to China. So I'll share more with you later. So when we were in China, we also heard from the Hangzhou government how they are approaching, how governments are approaching the building of smart cities. So I think somebody mentioned just now something similar. I think it was Peter. I think Peter, you mentioned something that you had 3 ways of managing of doing smart cities. From Asia's side, they were actually sharing with us that there's 2 schools of thoughts on how to build smart cities from the government perspective. One is actually from technological angle. So like, for example, the deployment of 5G. It is so expensive. No one knows how to make this commercialize it, but the government is pushing this down, right? IoT, face recognition, who likes it? Nobody. The government is pushing it down. So that's actually the angle from the technology angle side. Another one that's actually raising, and the government is aware of it, is actually building smart cities from actual use case angles. So what they're doing is, I think it's similar to what you were mentioning just now. You take something that the industry is already building up. You actually work with a certain sector, waste management, fintech, and then you support this industry. You actually give them grants, you give technology, make the rules easy for them to grow. And then this actually in turn push technology to evolve, right? So these are the 2 high-level approaches of building smart cities. And what we're noticing, not just in China, but I think across Southeast Asia as well, is that these both approaches are meeting in the middle. So let me share with you some examples. So we were in China. So this is the World Internet Conference in Wuzhen in China in October. So just to share with you, these are mostly top-down implementation of 5G. So the top left corner, so that's McVie. So that's how they actually capture people's faces, where they are, how old they are, also what color of clothing they're wearing. Are they wearing a hat? Are they male or female? And when you go to China, you can also find out, are they smiling? Are they happy? And all this data is captured. So McVie is actually very scary. It's a face recognition tool. They were actually, I just found out recently, they were actually in charge of keeping the security for G20 in Hangzhou in 2016. So their tool is actually incredibly powerful. How they deploy it would be similar to, I think somebody was mentioning that there's a government or company that has the citizens' data and they're not using it, right? So McVie's most popular product so far, though, is actually fintech. Because now in Indonesia, you need to have your face recognition in order to borrow money. So they've actually managed to go from this top-down approach to more of a use case approach. The table below, where, how many of you know Street Fighters? Very good, I love this crowd. Okay, so this picture here is showing, is again another technology from McVie. I don't work for them, this is just, they were very cool. This is basically you and a partner can pretend to fight. And then this is actually captured on the McVie technology, and then you can be your favorite Street Fighter character. So this is like from Black Mirror, happening in reality here, okay? So these 2 guys are actually from the Indonesian Cominfo, from Indonesia, really testing it out. It's not 100% foolproof, as we know that if you're a startup, this thing was not very sensitive, couldn't capture all the movement, but it works. It captures people's attention and imagination. Imagine 1-2 years down the line, if they refine the model, what can they do with it? Again, this is moving from more of a government-led initiative to more of a use case initiative. Okay, the graph in the middle is actually a self-driving simulation tool. Indonesian police love it. Why? Because you're learning how to drive without being on the road, without causing danger. So this is something that could be something that could be top down, and also people love it because it's actually a cool experience. The graph on the picture on the bottom middle, that is actually a recycling machine where you need to scan your Alipay or WeChat account, and then you can recycle, and then you actually get points for it. this is definitely top-down. Will it work in the longer term? I don't know. Unless I think the government really, really pushes it down, unless it can be commercialized, this is just a good to have. Top left, guess what that is? Guess where that is? Top right. Guess where that is? Yes, it is a market, yes. So this is actually a wet market in China, in Wuzhen. And this is outside the expo, but I thought this was actually very interesting and very creepy. Whereas all the stores in the market had a TV, and it had a scoring system. So if I'm a customer, I go there, I can actually just scan a QR code, which is mandatory there, and I can rate the shop owner there. Are they being fair? Are they giving me good service? Is there a complaint I want to make? I can directly actually just even make a complaint to the council. So this one is actually, and you have the shop owner's face, their name, their IC, everything is there. So that one, is something top-down. Is very, very, it's something that you see in a communist country. It can work there. Will it work outside? I don't know, right? Bottom right, the final one. So this is actually a showcase of Tongdun. So this is more of a risk management company, getting quite from China, but getting quite big in Southeast Asia. Their technology is pretty cool and awesome, and they were just showcasing it. So this is what you would see in a tech festival in China. Very impressive, very scary, very motivating in many ways, right? So this is actually what is happening in China. But that's not all, because outside of China is a totally different story when it comes to smart city. So the picture on this top left-hand side, this is a company called Clue, Qlue. So it is actually working with the government in Jakarta to allow citizens to make complaints about traffic, flooding, crime, rubbish waste management. You can actually record anything on this app, and this, I believe, is going to be the next one of the next, maybe not unicorn, but one of the next multi-billion company. And this happens because they can work closely with the government. The picture in the middle, this is actually I think Rastec trying to use some technology to capture car vehicles. But like what I mentioned just now, what if they use a fake license? It cannot capture it right now, but they're trying to work towards it, okay? Then on the right-hand side, Tokopedia. I believe all of you know what is Tokopedia, right? So Tokopedia is an e-commerce platform, but what they're doing right now is that they're going to rural areas. And what are they doing? They're going to the frontier areas where there's not much internet, people are undereducated. They're making Tokopedia centers where they can actually help villagers do trade on e-commerce. And like, for example, Indonesia is very big, a lot of islands. And outside Jakarta, the GDP per capita goes down a lot, right? So what Tokopedia is doing is that they're actually going to this kind of like countryside. These shops are set up where the local villagers can sell their own goods via Tokopedia. And it basically, I think somebody was saying that they want to sell it to the end customer in Jakarta. They can do it via Tokopedia. And they actually saw an increase in profit for these villagers. So you don't need new technology to bring smart cities to the rural areas. You can leverage on existing partners to actually go big. The one on the bottom, you may not know, this guy looks really happy on his bike. But what Tokopedia is also doing together with the government is this is e-taxation. So this is very interesting because who wants to pay tax? Nobody, right? But the government has been working on Tokopedia and a few other e-commerce or offline players to try to encourage people to pay tax online. So you can go to the Tokopedia website and you can pay tax. And you can maybe get some bonus or get some rebates out of it. And the government actually launched this in 2018. As at June 2019, the tax revenue increased 85%. So again, this is a way for you to get people to pay tax. Is there any new technology? No, but they're working with existing e-commerce players to start to build the foundation for smart cities. Once this is built, blockchain can come on it. The people are educated, they can move on. Okay, the bottom right, the bottom first two pictures is something I want to share with you. Bhakti is actually a government organization, also from West Java. West Java, just to give you an example, has a population of 48 million people, covers a span of 36,000 kilometers square, encompasses 26 cities, 5,000 villages, right? And all this is under this government called West Java. West Java has one of the the richest capital called Bandung, and it's a very nice place you should go and visit if you have not. But it also has really, really poor rural areas which does not have internet connection, okay? And internet connection in these areas would be very expensive. It's on Java Island, but there's lots of mountains, lots of terrains. And it's having some challenges. So what I heard from the Indonesian government is that, number one, right now building, not a lot of companies want to go into outside Jakarta to build infrastructure for telecommunication. Existing network providers, the LAN cable, finds it not reliable. Mobile network providers are making losses. They don't want to expand. And thirdly, I think that because of terrain, it's very hard for the government to actually do a mass expansion into areas outside Jakarta. So what the government is doing, though, is working with Bhakti, working with private companies to build this kind of like telecommunication towers, which actually I think is a relay. So from one tower, it relays to many small more towers and relays to the shops and schools, right? I think within 1.5 years, they've managed to cover about 50% of West Java with just this infrastructure. The government is serious about building infrastructure because I think they know that this one is actually important. Is this relevant to the rest of Southeast Asia? Yes or maybe no. What I'm trying to say is that I think government plays a very big role in building smart cities. And building smart cities has to start from the scratch, which is what exactly do the